A girl lives trapped in a house that has become a cemetery of memories and violence. But everything begins to change when a visitor scarred by war appears at the rusty gate. Upon discovering the truth behind the lies and the silence of the village, he becomes the target of a corrupt network that destroys everything around. And in the midst of fire, injustice, and fear, a promise is born, one that no one will ever silence again. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching us from. We continue. The fine Edinburgh rain fell on the streets of the Silver Stream neighborhood that Thursday afternoon, creating a grey veil that seemed to reflect the mood of lunar venture. At 11 years old, the girl with brown hair and eyes that already carried a sadness too old for her age swept the house porch for the third time that day. Her small hands held the broom firmly, but her thoughts wandered far away to a time she could barely remember, when that same house still held the smell of cornmeal cake and the sound of genuine laughter. The house stood at the top of a tree-lined street, a two-story building that had once been painted light yellow, but now showed the marks of time and neglect. The windows needed repair, the garden was overgrown with weeds, and the flowers that once adorned the entrance had long since withered. It was as if the building itself reflected the emotional abandonment that reigned within. Luna finished sweeping and looked up at the heavy sky. Only 2 hours remained until her stepmother Beatrice returned from the beauty salon where she worked as a manicurist, and she still needed to tidy the kitchen, fold the clothes, and prepare dinner. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of a responsibility that should not be hers. At 11, Luna knew how to cook better than many adults. She knew how to wash, iron, clean, and organize an entire house. But she no longer knew how to play, no longer knew how to be a child. She entered through the front door and walked across the living room, avoiding looking at the dusty photographs on the shelf. There was one in particular that she couldn't bear to see. It was a faded image of a man with a wide smile, dark hair, and kind eyes, holding a baby in his arms. That man was John Paul Venture, her father, and that baby was her, Luna, 11 years ago, when there was still love in that house. Luna's father had left when she was only 3 years old. No one explained exactly what had happened. Beatrice, who was only John Paul's girlfriend at the time, said he had abandoned the family and never wanted to know his daughter again. She said he was a coward, irresponsible, someone who chose to run away instead of fulfilling his obligations. Luna, however, held fragments of memories that didn't match that version. She remembered the smell of her father's cologne, the feeling of safety when he carried her on his shoulders, the lullabies he invented. Could someone like that simply leave without looking back? Beatrice assumed custody of Luna after John Paul's disappearance. The girl's biological mother had left the hospital shortly after birth, never to be heard from again. Luna grew up knowing she had been abandoned twice, first by the mother she never knew, then by the father who left without explanation. Beatrice, who had promised to care for her as if she were her own daughter, became her legal guardian, and everything changed. At first, there was still kindness. Beatrice treated her with a mixture of pity and obligation, but when she met Roderick Alistair, a construction businessman who appeared to have much more money than he actually did, everything collapsed. Roderick moved into the house, assumed the role of owner, and turned Luna into a kind of invisible maid. There were no constant shouts or obvious cruel words. The cruelty was more subtle, colder. It was in the look of indifference, in the acidic comments disguised as jokes, in the impossible workload for a child, in the silence during meals while she served and they talked as if she wasn't there. Luna went upstairs towards her room, a small space at the end of the corridor, which was once used as a storage room. The walls still had marks from old boxes and removed shelves. Her bed was a thin mattress on a rusty iron frame covered by faded sheets. There were no toys, no colorful posters, nothing to suggest that an 11-year-old girl slept there. There was only a worn school backpack, a few notebooks, and a small wooden chest hidden under the bed. She knelt and carefully pulled out the chest. Inside, she kept her only treasures, a small photograph of her father smiling, which she had secretly taken from the living room years ago, a blue scarf that smelled of him, still preserved after so long, and a letter. A yellowed letter, folded and refolded so many times that the creases were starting to tear. Luna opened it delicately and read it. For the 1,000th time. My little Luna, if you ever read this, know that your father never abandoned you. Never. Circumstances kept me away from you, but my heart has always been by your side. I will return. I promise. And when I return, we will fix everything. You will understand. Forgive me for not being able to explain now. I love you more than anything in this world. Always your father, John Paul. Luna didn't know how that letter had come into her hands. She had found it hidden in an old book in the house library 2 years ago. Since then, those words were her anchor, the only proof that perhaps her father hadn't truly abandoned her, but he had never returned. And with each passing day, hope faded like water through her fingers. The sound of the front door opening made her quickly put the letter back in the chest and push it under the bed. She ran downstairs and found Beatrice entering, with her newly painted red nails and a tired expression on her face. Beatrice was in her 40s, with dyed blonde hair and a way of speaking that oscillated between false sweetness and cutting coldness. "Did you finish everything I asked, girl?" Beatrice asked, taking her bag off her shoulder and throwing it on the sofa. "Yes, Aunt Beatrice," Luna replied, using the address that had been imposed on her. "The kitchen is clean, the clothes are folded, and I've already started dinner." Beatrice nodded without looking at her. "And your homework? I'll finish it after dinner. You study after everyone has eaten and the kitchen is clean again. I won't have you getting bad grades and causing trouble at school. It's enough that I have to support you." Luna swallowed hard. Beatrice always threw it in her face, the fact that she was doing her a favor by raising her, as if Luna had asked to be there, as if she wasn't a child who deserved to be cared for by right. The sound of a car on the street caught both their attention. It was an unfamiliar vehicle, a silver sedan that parked right in front of the gate. Luna watched through the window as a man got out of the car. He was about 45, with grey hair, simple but well-kept clothes, and a determined walk. He stopped at the gate, observed the house for a long moment, and then walked towards the entrance. Beatrice frowned. "Who's this now?" The man rang the doorbell. Luna went to the door, opened it slightly, and faced him. He smiled, a gentle smile that made something strange happen inside her, as if a door locked for years was beginning to open. "Good afternoon," he said in a calm voice. "My name is Marcus Stone. I'm a friend of John Paul Venture. Does he still live here?" Luna's heart pounded. Someone who knew her father. Someone looking for him. Before she could answer, Beatrice appeared, behind her, gently pushing her aside. "John Paul no longer lives here," Beatrice said coldly. "He left many years ago and never got in touch again. We don't know where he is." Marcus observed Beatrice, then shifted his gaze to Luna. His eyes lingered on the girl and something in them changed, as if he was recognizing something familiar. "Are you his daughter?" he asked Luna directly. She nodded shyly. "I'm Luna." His smile widened, but there was sadness in it too. "You were just a baby when I last saw you. John Paul talked about you all the time. You were his joy." Beatrice crossed her arms, annoyed. "Look, sir, I don't know what you want, but there's nothing for you here. John Paul abandoned this girl and disappeared. If you're looking for him, you're wasting your time." Marcus didn't take his eyes off Luna. "I don't believe that. John Paul would never abandon his daughter. He made me promise that if something happened to him, I would take care of Luna. And I'm here to honor that promise." Luna felt her chest tighten. There was truth in those words. She could feel it. Beatrice, however, was visibly irritated. "This girl already has someone to take care of her. I am her legal guardian, and I don't need strangers showing up here making empty promises. Please, leave." Marcus took a step back, but his eyes remained fixed on Luna. "Can I come back another day?" he asked, more to the girl than to Beatrice. Before Luna could answer, Beatrice closed the door. "That man is not coming back here, do you hear? I don't want anyone stirring up the past. What's done is done." Luna stood still, staring at the closed door. Something inside her had awakened. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope, someone who knew her father, someone who believed in him, someone who had made a promise. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, Luna returned to her secret chest. She took out her father's letter and read it again, but this time the words had a different weight. If Marcus was right, if her father really hadn't abandoned her, then there was something wrong with this whole story, and she needed to find out what. The following days were strange. Luna couldn't get Marcus out of her head. Every time she swept the porch, she looked out at the street, hoping to see the silver car. Every time she went to school, she wondered what he knew about her father. Beatrice and Roderick were more tense than usual, talking in low voices whenever they thought she wasn't around. Luna noticed they were worried about something, but she couldn't understand what. At school, Luna was a dedicated but lonely student. She didn't have many friends. The other children lived lives she couldn't reach. They had families who picked them up smiling. They had birthday parties. They had new clothes. They had hugs at the end of the day. Luna had only silence and chores waiting for her at home, but she didn't complain. She had learned that complaining only made things worse. It was on a Tuesday during recess that something different happened. Luna was sitting alone under a tree in the schoolyard when a woman approached her. She was young, probably in her 30s, wore red-framed glasses, and carried a folder. She identified herself as a social worker from the city council and said she needed to talk to her. "Luna, I'm Marina. I came here because I received an anonymous tip that you might be in a difficult situation at home. Are you okay? Are you being treated well?" Luna's heart raced. A tip? Who would have done that? She immediately thought of Marcus. Could it have been him? But why? And what would happen if she told the truth? Beatrice would be furious, Roderick too. And where would she go if they took her away from there? As difficult as her life was, it was the only one she knew. "I'm fine." "Yes," Luna replied softly. "Aunt Beatrice takes good care of me." Marina observed her carefully. "You can tell me anything, okay? If someone is hurting you or treating you badly, I can help. You don't have to be afraid." Luna shook her head. "No, everything's really fine. I'm just shy." Marina didn't seem convinced, but she couldn't force anything either. She left a card with her phone number and said Luna could call whenever she needed to. Then she left, leaving Luna with a whirlwind of feelings. Part of her wanted to scream that no, it wasn't okay, that she was treated like a maid, that she never received affection, that she lived in a room that felt like a prison. But another part of her was afraid. Afraid of the unknown, afraid that perhaps the alternative would be worse. When she got home that day, Beatrice was waiting, furious. She threw the social worker's card on the kitchen table. "What's this? What have you been saying at school?" Luna cowered. "I didn't say anything, Aunt. A lady showed up and asked if I was okay. I said yes." "And who made the complaint, huh? Who was it?" "It was that man who showed up here, wasn't it? That Marcus." Luna didn't know what to say. Beatrice continued. "You don't say anything to these people, do you hear me? Nothing. This house, this life, all of this is ours now. John Paul disappeared and left everything abandoned. If it weren't for me, you'd be in an orphanage. Do you understand that? I saved you. And this is how you thank me, letting people stick their noses where they don't belong?" Roderick entered the kitchen at that moment with his usual arrogant posture. "What's going on here?" Beatrice pointed at Luna. "This girl is causing trouble. A social worker showed up at her school today." Roderick looked at Luna with contempt. "This is all that man's fault who came here. He's meddling in things he shouldn't. You don't talk to him, understand? If he comes back, you don't open the door." Luna nodded, feeling tears burn her eyes, but refusing to let them fall. She wouldn't give them that satisfaction. That night, lying in her narrow bed, Luna looked out the window at the starry Edinburgh sky. She thought of her father, of Marcus, of the social worker, of everything that was happening. There was something bigger behind all of this. She could feel it. Beatrice and Roderick were hiding something, and she needed to find out what. Marcus didn't give up. The following Thursday he returned, but this time he didn't go to the house. He waited for Luna to leave school and approached her on the sidewalk. She recognized him immediately and looked around, nervous. "Luna, I need to talk to you," he said gently. "You don't have to be afraid of me. I was a very good friend of your father's." "You left that day and my aunt got very angry," Luna said hurriedly. "She said I can't talk to you." "I know, but I need you to know the truth. Your father didn't abandon you, Luna. He disappeared. And I think Beatrice knows more than she's saying." Luna felt a shiver run down her spine. "What do you mean?" Marcus knelt to be at her height. "Your father called me 8 years ago, shortly before he disappeared. He was worried. He said he had discovered something serious and needed to resolve it before it was too late. He asked me to take care of you if anything happened. A few days later he disappeared. No one heard from him again. I tried to look for him, but I found nothing. Until recently I found some documents that show the house where you live was irregularly transferred to Beatrice's name. Your father never signed anything. Someone forged his signature." Luna's eyes widened. "But how?" "I don't know yet, but I'm investigating. And I need your help. Do you know if Beatrice keeps old documents anywhere in the house?" Luna thought for a moment. "She has a locked filing cabinet in her room. She never lets me in there." Marcus nodded. "Could you take a look just to see if there's anything related?" "To your father?" Luna bit her lip. She knew she was entering dangerous territory, but for the first time in years, she felt that maybe she could discover the truth about her father, about herself, about everything. "I can try," she said in a low voice. Marcus smiled. "Thank you, Luna. You're brave, like your father. I'll give you my number. If you need anything, call me, okay?" He handed her a piece of paper with his phone number written on it. Luna quickly put it in her backpack and looked around, making sure no one had seen them. Then she ran towards home. That night, while Beatrice and Roderick watched television in the living room, Luna slowly went upstairs. Beatrice's room was on the 2nd floor, right next to Roderick's room. The two slept separately, something Luna had always found strange but never questioned. She waited until she was sure they were distracted, and then carefully opened Beatrice's bedroom door. The room was tidy, almost obsessively organized. There was a large wardrobe, a dresser, and in the corner a metal filing cabinet locked with a padlock. Luna looked at the cabinet. Inside, perhaps, were the answers she was looking for, but how to open it? She discreetly searched the dresser, looking for the key. She opened drawers carefully, avoiding making noise, and then, in a jewelry box at the back of the 3rd drawer, she found it, a small silver key. With trembling hands, Luna approached the cabinet. She inserted the key into the lock and turned. The padlock opened with a soft click. She pulled out the first drawer, and her eyes widened. There were piles of papers, old documents, contracts, deeds, and in the middle of everything, a folder with John Paul Venture's name handwritten on it. Luna picked it up and opened it. Inside there were copies of property transfer documents, all signed by John Paul, but Luna looked at the signatures and her heart pounded. She knew her father's handwriting. She had his letter saved, and those signatures were different. They were fake. She continued searching and found more things, payment receipts, bank statements, all in Beatrice's name. High values, coming from sources Luna couldn't identify, and then, at the bottom of the folder, she found something that made her stop breathing. A handwritten note on a yellowed paper, in Beatrice's handwriting. JP found, "Out everything. Needs to disappear before he talks. Roderick will handle it." Luna felt the world spin. What did that mean? JP was John Paul, her father. He had discovered something, and Roderick was going to handle it. Handle it how? What had they done? She heard footsteps on the stairs and her heart almost stopped. Quickly she put everything back, locked the cabinet, put the key back in the box, and left the room. She barely had time to close the door when Beatrice appeared in the hallway. "What are you doing here?" Beatrice asked suspiciously. I was looking for the bathroom. I got lost," Luna lied, trying to control the tremor in her voice. Beatrice looked at her for a long moment, then pointed to the stairs. "Your bathroom is in your room. Go back there." Luna ran downstairs and locked herself in her room. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it would explode. She picked up the paper with Marcus's phone number and looked at it. She needed to tell him what she had seen. But how? She didn't have a cell phone. Beatrice would never let her use the house phone. She waited until the early hours of the morning, when she was sure everyone was asleep. She crept downstairs, picked up the landline phone in the living room, and dialed Marcus's number. He answered on the third ring with a sleepy voice. "Hello? It's me, Luna," she whispered. "I found something." On the other end of the line, Marcus became fully awake. "What? What did you find?" Luna told him everything, in a low, rapid voice. The fake signatures, the documents, the payments, and especially the note about her father. Marcus was silent for a moment after she finished. "Luna, you need to get out of there. These people are dangerous, but I have nowhere to go. I'll sort it out. I'll contact the authorities. I'll get you out of there. But for now, you need to act as if nothing happened. Don't let them realize you know anything. Promise?" "I promise." She hung up the phone and went back to her room, her heart still pounding. She lay on the bed, but couldn't sleep. The truth was beginning to emerge, and it was darker than she imagined. Her father hadn't abandoned her. He had been taken away, and Beatrice and Roderick knew exactly what had happened. The next few days were a silent torture. Luna tried to act normally, but every glance from Beatrice, every word from Roderick made her feel that they knew, that somehow they had discovered she was meddling where she shouldn't. The tension in the house was palpable. It was on Saturday that everything began to unravel. Marcus returned, but this time he wasn't alone. He brought with him the social worker, Marina, and a lawyer. They rang the doorbell, and Beatrice opened the door, visibly irritated. "What is it now?" she asked, crossing her arms. "My name is Dr. Frederick Carter," said the lawyer, a middle-aged man in glasses and a dark suit. "I am here representing Mr. Marcus Stone and also the interests of the minor Luna venture. We have reason to believe that her guardianship was established irregularly, and that there are irregularities in the property documentation of this house." Beatrice paled. "What are you talking about?" "We are talking about document forgery, misappropriation of assets, and possible coercion. You will have to come with us to provide clarification." Roderick appeared at the door, visibly nervous. "You can't do this. You have no proof." "Of anything." Marcus stepped forward. "Yes, we do, and we will prove everything." Luna watched everything from the stairs, her heart racing. Finally, the truth was coming out. Finally, someone was fighting for her. Marcus looked at her and nodded, as if to say everything would be okay. But Beatrice was not willing to surrender so easily. She looked at Luna with cold eyes and said something that made the girl's blood run cold. "This girl knows nothing. She's just a problematic child who invents stories. John Paul was an irresponsible drunk who disappeared because he couldn't handle the pressure of being a father. I did her a favor by taking care of her all these years, and this is how I'm rewarded, with unfounded accusations." Marina approached Luna. "Darling, do you want to come with me? You don't have to stay here." Luna looked at Beatrice, then at Marcus, and finally at Marina. And for the first time in her life, she made a decision for herself. She went down the stairs, walked past Beatrice and Roderick, and took Marina's hand. "I want to leave here," she said, her voice firm. And so, on that rainy Saturday afternoon in Edinburgh, Luna Venture left behind the house that had been her emotional prison for so many years, and took the first step towards the truth about her father, her past, and herself. The temporary shelter was located in a quiet neighborhood of Old Town, a simple but welcoming building that served as a provisional home for vulnerable children. Luna arrived there that Saturday afternoon with only her school backpack and the clothes on her back. Marina, the social worker, accompanied her to the room she would share with two other girls and tried to calm her with kind words. But Luna could barely process what was happening. She had left behind the only home she had ever known, even if that home was a place of sadness. "You'll be fine here, Luna," Marina said, sitting beside her on the bed. "It's just temporary, until we sort everything out. Dr. Frederick and Marcus are working to discover the truth about your father and about your home situation. You were very brave today." Luna just nodded, looking at her own hands. She felt strange, as if she were floating outside her own body. Had she done the right thing? What if Beatrice was telling the truth? What if her father really had abandoned her, and she was just clinging to a fantasy? Marina noticed the girl's confusion. I know it's difficult now, but you're not alone. Many people want to help you. And tomorrow, if you want, Marcus can come visit you. He has many things to tell you about your father. Luna's heart tightened. She wanted to believe there were answers, that there was an explanation for all of it. She wanted to believe her father hadn't forgotten her. But 8 years was a long time, too long. Marina left, leaving Luna alone in the room. The girl looked around. The walls were painted a light yellow, there were floral curtains on the windows, and 3 beds lined up with colorful bedspreads. It was simple, but it was clean and organized, so different from the dark little room where she slept in Beatrice's house. Luna lay down, closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, fell asleep without fear of being woken up for a chore. The next day, a sunny Sunday, Marcus arrived at the shelter in the middle of the morning. He brought with him a bag with new clothes for Luna, some bought especially for her, and a small teddy bear. When Luna saw him, something inside her broke. She ran to him and for the first time since her father disappeared, truly hugged someone. Marcus hugged her back, feeling the fragility of that child who had carried so much weight alone. They sat in the shelter garden under a leafy jabuticaba tree. Marcus took a deep breath before starting to speak. Luna, I need to tell you about your father, about who he really was. The girl looked at him with attentive eyes, hanging on every word. John Paul and I met at university. We studied architecture together. He was brilliant, you know. He had an incredible talent for drawing, for creating designs. After we graduated, he opened his own office here in Edinburgh. Things were going well. But then he met your mother, Clarice. Luna's eyes widened. No one ever talked about her mother. It was as if she had never existed. Clarice was complicated, Marcus continued, choosing his words carefully. She had serious problems, issues she couldn't resolve. When she became pregnant with you, John Paul was over the moon with happiness. But Clarice wasn't ready to be a mother. After you were born, she went into a deep crisis. She left the hospital and never came back. She simply disappeared. John Paul was devastated, but he had you, and you became the center of his world. And Beatrice? Luna asked, her voice low. Beatrice appeared shortly after. She worked as a secretary in your father's architecture office. At first, she seemed to help. She offered to take care of you while your father worked. He trusted her. But over time, I noticed something was wrong. Beatrice was possessive, controlling. She wanted to become indispensable. And then Roderick entered the picture. Who is Roderick, really? Luna asked. Marcus sighed. Roderick Allister is a man with a complicated history. He presents himself as a construction businessman, but in reality, he's someone who has always lived by schemes, by shortcuts. He met Beatrice and the two teamed up. And that's when the problems started. What problems? Your father began to suspect that something was wrong with the office finances. Documents disappeared, contracts were altered, money vanished. He investigated and discovered that Beatrice was embezzling funds, using the office to launder Roderick's money. When John Paul confronted her, she denied everything. But he had proof. He was going to report both of them to the authorities. Luna's heart raced. And what happened? The night before he went to the police, 8 years ago, John Paul called me. He was nervous, worried. He said Beatrice had threatened to take you from him, that she had forged documents proving he was an unfit father, that he drank, that he was unstable. He was afraid of losing you. He asked me to take care of you if something went wrong. I said yes, but I thought he was exaggerating. A few days later, he disappeared. Luna felt tears stream down her face, and no one looked for him. I did, Luna. I looked hard. I went to the police, hired investigators. But Beatrice had fake documents. She had witnesses who lied, saying they saw your father drinking, fighting with you. She built such an elaborate story that everyone believed it. And when she got legal guardianship of you and the transfer of the house, I had no way to prove anything. I spent years gathering evidence, but it wasn't enough, until now. What changed? Marcus took an envelope from his pocket. I found someone who was involved in all of this and is willing to talk. A man who worked with Roderick, who participated in the document forgery scheme. He's scared, thinks Roderick might turn against him, so he decided to cooperate. He has copies of everything: forged signatures, receipts of illegal payments, messages exchanged between Beatrice and Roderick. Everything. Luna wiped her tears. Does that mean they'll be arrested? Yes. Dr. Frederick has already filed a lawsuit. The police are investigating. It will take some time, but the truth will come out. And my father? Where is he? Marcus looked at her sadly. That's the part I still don't know, Luna. We have no concrete clue about where John Paul is now, but I won't give up on finding him. And I know you won't either. Luna took Marcus's hand. Thank you for not giving up on me. He smiled, his eyes welling up. I made a promise to my best friend, and I'll honor it until the end. The days at the shelter were strange for Luna. She wasn't used to being treated with kindness. The caregivers asked if she was okay, if she needed anything. The other children tried to include her in their games. Everything was so different. She started attending a new school closer to the shelter and gradually began to open up. She made friends with a girl named Julia, who also lived in the shelter and had a similar story to hers. Julia was 9, with curly hair and a smile that lit up any room. Despite having gone through difficult things, she taught Luna to play again, to laugh at silly things, to be a child, and Luna for the first time felt that maybe she could have a normal life. Marcus visited her whenever he could. He brought books, told stories about her father, showed old photos Luna had never seen. She discovered that John Paul loved jazz, that he had a funny way of drawing caricatures, that he was terrible at cooking but tried anyway. Each story made Luna feel like she was truly getting to know her father, not just the hazy memories she held. Meanwhile, the lawsuit against Beatrice and Roderick progressed. Dr. Frederick was relentless. He managed to prove that the signatures on the house transfer documents were fake. He managed to track suspicious payments linking Beatrice and Roderick to money laundering schemes. The web of lies they had built began to unravel. It was on a Tuesday, 3 weeks after Luna had left the house, that Dr. Frederick appeared at the shelter with important news. He called Luna and Marcus for a private conversation in the director's office. "We discovered something," he said, opening a folder full of documents. "During the investigation, we found bank transfers that John Paul made shortly before disappearing. He sold some assets, liquidated investments, and transferred a significant amount to an account in the name of a lawyer in Brighton." "Brighton?" Marcus repeated, surprised. "Yes, and we managed to trace it. This lawyer specialized in witness protection and people at risk. We believe John Paul may have sought his help to disappear temporarily while gathering evidence against Beatrice and Roderick." Luna felt hope ignite in her chest. "So my father is alive?" "We cannot say for sure," Dr. Frederick said cautiously, "but it's a real possibility. We are trying to locate this lawyer, but he retired years ago and is difficult to find. We haven't given up." Marcus looked at Luna. "This is a good sign, little one. It means your father was protecting himself, planning something. He didn't run away out of cowardice. He was trying to fix everything." Luna nodded, holding back tears. She needed to believe that. She needed to have hope. That same day, in the afternoon, something unexpected happened. Luna was in the shelter courtyard when Marina appeared with a woman she didn't know. She was an elderly lady with white hair, light eyes, and a gentle smile. Marina made the introductions. "Luna, this is Mrs. Helen. She was your father's neighbor for many years and asked to meet you." Helen approached and gently took Luna's hands. "Girl, I couldn't believe it when I heard you were alive and well. Your father talked about you so much. You were the light of his life." "You knew my father?" Luna asked, moved. "Yes, I did. I lived in the house next to yours for years. I saw you being born. I saw your father care for you with so much love. And I saw when everything started to go wrong." "What did you see?" Helen sighed. "I saw Beatrice meddling more and more in John Paul's life. I saw her settle into the house, bring that man, Roderick. I saw your father becoming more and more distressed. One night, a few days before he disappeared, he knocked on my door. He was desperate. He said he needed to protect you, that Beatrice was plotting against him, that they had forged documents. He gave me a box, asked me to keep it. He said if anything happened to him, I should find a trusted lawyer and give him that box, but I never knew what happened next. Beatrice told me he had abandoned you and fled. I was devastated, but I didn't know what to do, until I saw the news about the investigation in the newspaper and decided to look for you. Marcus stepped forward. Do you still have that box? Helen nodded. Yes, I do. It's still stored in my house. I never opened it as John Paul asked. Dr. Frederick immediately stood up. We need that box. It could contain crucial evidence. Helen agreed, and they all went to her house, an old but well-preserved building in the Highgate neighborhood. She led them to the guest room and opened the closet. At the back, wrapped in a cloth, was a wooden box with a small lock. Helen handed it to Marcus. The key must be with you. John Paul said he would leave a way to open it. Marcus examined the box. There was an inscription carved on the lid. Luna. What did your father used to call you? Luna thought for a moment. He called me Lunina, and sometimes my little star. Marcus turned the box and saw that there were numbers engraved underneath. 0512. December 5th. Luna, is that a special day? It's my birthday, Luna said softly. Marcus tried to turn the lock mechanism using the date, and it opened. Inside the box were documents, USB drives, photographs, and a sealed letter with Luna's name handwritten on it. With trembling hands, Luna took the letter and opened it. It was her father's unmistakable handwriting. My dearest Lunina, if you are reading this, it is because something went wrong. I wanted to be by your side now, but if I am not, know that it was not by choice. I discovered serious things about people I trusted. Beatrice and Roderick are involved in fraud, embezzlement, and forgery. They threatened to take you from me using false documents to make me seem like an irresponsible father. I cannot let that happen. I will gather evidence and report them. But if something goes wrong, everything you need is in this box. Documents that prove my innocence, evidence against them, and a way to protect you. Marcus Stone is my best friend. Trust him. He will take care of you. I love you more than anything in this world, my little star. And if there is a way to come back to you, I will find it. Never doubt that. Always your father, John Paul Venture. Luna couldn't hold back her tears. She hugged the letter to her chest as Marcus wrapped her in a protective embrace. Dr. Frederick took the documents and USB drives, quickly examining them. His eyes widened. This is gold, forged contracts, compromising emails, records of illegal transactions. With this, we can not only prove John Paul's innocence, but also definitively incriminate Beatrice and Roderick. But where is my father? Luna asked between sobs. Helen approached. There's one more thing. Days after John Paul disappeared, I received a letter with no sender. Inside was just an address in Brighton and a date. December 5th, 2025. Luna's birthday. This year. I thought it was a mistake, but I kept it. Maybe it means something. Marcus took the paper Helen offered, an address and a date. Could it be a message, a planned meeting? Dr. Frederick analyzed it. Brighton, the same place where he transferred money. It could be that he planned everything. If he's in hiding, waiting for the right moment, maybe this is the day he set to reappear, when everything was resolved. Luna looked at the date. Her birthday was only 2 weeks away. Could it be possible? Could her father really be waiting for her? The following days were a mixture of anxiety and hope. Dr. Frederick filed new evidence in court. With the proofs found in the box, the case against Beatrice and Roderick became irrefutable. The house was put back in John Paul Venture's name, in the process of being transferred to Luna as soon as everything was formalized. Beatrice and Roderick were indicted for multiple crimes and awaited trial. Luna remained at the shelter, but now with a different feeling. She was no longer a lost child. She was a survivor, and she had people by her side. Marcus visited every day, bringing news, planning the future. Marina continued to be a constant support. Julia had become her best friend, and Mrs. Helen visited on weekends to tell stories about John Paul, keeping Luna's father's memory alive. When December 5th finally arrived, Luna woke up with her heart racing. It was her 12th birthday, and maybe, just maybe, it was the day she would reunite with her father. Marcus, Dr. Frederick, and Marina organized a trip to Brighton. They all went together in Marcus's car, crossing the mountains as Luna looked out the window, imagining what they would find. The address led to a simple beachfront house on the north side of the island. It was a small white-painted building with a porch facing the ocean. When they arrived, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange and pink. Luna got out of the car with trembling legs. They walked to the door. Marcus rang the doorbell. They waited. The silence seemed eternal. And then the door opened. A man appeared in the doorway. He had grey hair, a beard, tired but still bright eyes. He was thinner, older, but it was him. Luna would recognize those eyes anywhere. "Daddy?" she whispered, barely believing what she saw. John Paul Venture looked at his daughter, and his eyes filled with tears. "Lunina, my little star." Luna ran to him, and John Paul picked her up in his arms, hugging her with all the strength he had, as if he would never let her go. Both cried, unable to speak. Marcus also cried, seeing his friend whom he had given up for lost, finally reunited. It was a moment that seemed impossible, but it was happening. After the initial emotional impact, everyone entered the house. John Paul prepared tea, and sitting on the porch overlooking the sea, he began to tell his story. He had discovered Beatrice and Roderick's schemes, had gathered evidence, but before he could act, they severely threatened him. They forged documents that made him seem unstable, even dangerous. They obtained a temporary court order that kept him away from Luna. John Paul, desperate, sought help from a specialized lawyer who advised him to disappear temporarily while gathering more evidence and dismantling the scheme against him. He had moved to Brighton under a false name, worked odd jobs to survive, always trying to protect Luna from afar and gather evidence. He had tried several times to re-establish contact, but Beatrice and Roderick had connections, people who warned them of any movement. John Paul had to wait for the right moment. And that moment came when Marcus finally managed to start dismantling the web of lies. "I knew everything," John Paul said, holding Luna's hands. "I saw in the newspapers about the investigation, about you being taken from that house. I wanted to run to you immediately, but the lawyer advised me to wait until everything was legally resolved. Until it was safe, I marked your birthday as the day of our reunion because I knew you would remember. I prayed every day that you were well, that someone was protecting you, and I thank God that Marcus didn't give up." Marcus smiled. "I made a promise, my friend, and I kept it." John Paul hugged him with gratitude. Then he turned to Luna. "I'm so sorry for everything you went through, my daughter. I'm so sorry I wasn't there, but now I will make up for every lost day. We will be together again. We will rebuild our family." Luna hugged her father tightly. She needed nothing else. She had found the truth. She had found her father. And finally, after 8 years, she was home in the arms of someone who truly loved her. The first few days after the reunion were intense and full of confusing emotions. Luna returned to Edinburgh with her father, but nothing was as simple as in fairy tales. John Paul had to go through a series of legal procedures to officially regain custody of his daughter. There were hearings, interviews with social workers, psychological evaluations, all to ensure that Luna would be safe and that John Paul was, in fact, who he claimed to be and was able to care for her. During this transition period, Luna continued to live at the shelter, but now with daily visits from her father. John Paul rented a small apartment in the Greenwater neighborhood near the shelter and began to reorganize his life. He managed to reactivate his professional registration as an architect and was welcomed back into the market by colleagues who had always believed in his innocence. Marcus helped him rebuild the office, now as partners, and gradually things began to fall into place. But Luna was no longer the 3-year-old girl he had left behind. She was a 12-year-old preteen, marked by years of emotional neglect and loneliness. And John Paul, as much as he loved his daughter with all his heart, also carried the scars of 8 years living in hiding, always scared, always alone. Their rapprochement was like learning to dance a song they both knew, but had forgotten the steps. During the first visits, they sat facing each other, not knowing exactly what to say. John Paul tried to talk about the years he spent away, but the words never seemed enough. Luna wanted to ask so many things, but she was afraid of the answers. She was afraid that this happiness would be temporary, that he would leave again, that everything was just a cruel dream from which she would wake up alone. It was Mrs. Helen who helped them break the ice. She started visiting them during their meetings, bringing old photographs, telling funny stories from when Luna was a baby, recalling moments John Paul had forgotten. Gradually, memories reconnected. Luna began to remember fragments of her childhood, the smell of coffee her father made in the morning, the music he sang in the shower, the way he rocked her to sleep. One January afternoon, while they were sitting in the shelter's small garden, Luna finally asked the question that had tormented her since she reunited with him. "Dad, were you angry with me for not looking for you, for believing you had abandoned me?" John Paul looked at her with surprise and sadness. "Luna, you were a child. How could you have done differently? Beatrice and Roderick controlled everything around you. They lied to you, manipulated your perception of reality. You are not to blame for anything. None of this was your responsibility. But I should have remembered you better. I should have doubted them." He took her hands. "You were just a baby when they took me away from you. It's natural for memories to fade. The important thing is that, even without remembering properly, you never gave up on me. You kept that letter, visited my imaginary grave, kept hope alive. You are the bravest person I know." Luna felt tears stream down her face. "I missed you so much." "Me too, my daughter, every day. But now we are together, and nothing will separate us again." As father and daughter rebuilt their relationship, the legal process against Beatrice and Roderick advanced. The evidence was overwhelming. In addition to the documents found in the box left by John Paul, investigators discovered an entire network of fraud that the two had been committing for years. It wasn't just John Paul's house they had stolen. There were other victims, other destroyed families, other illegally appropriated assets. Beatrice tried to negotiate, claiming she had been coerced by Roderick, that she was afraid of him, that she had done everything under threat. But the bank records showed otherwise. She was an active and conscious participant in all the schemes. Roderick in turn tried to flee the country, but was detained at Heathrow Airport, trying to board with false documents. The trial was scheduled for March. Dr. Frederick assured John Paul that the case was solid and that justice would be served. But for Luna, all of it still seemed unreal. Beatrice, who for years had been the only maternal figure she had known, however distorted and cruel, was now a criminal. It was strange to hate and at the same time feel pity. Marina, always attentive, noticed Luna's emotional conflict and suggested therapy. John Paul immediately agreed. Luna began weekly sessions with a psychologist specializing in child trauma, Dr. Carla Mason. It was difficult at first. Luna didn't know how to express what she felt. She had spent so long keeping everything inside her that her emotions were like an impossible knot to untie. But Dr. Carla was patient. She used drawings, games, stories. Gradually, Luna began to open up. She talked about the loneliness, about the feeling of never being good enough, about the constant fear of doing something wrong and being punished. She talked about the emptiness of not having anyone to hug her when she was sad, of not having anyone who cared if she was sick or cold, and she also talked about guilt. The guilt of having believed the lies about her father, the guilt of not having fought harder, the guilt of, in some dark moments, having wished Beatrice was a real mother. "It's normal to feel all of that," Dr. Carla said gently. "You were a child in an impossible situation. The child's brain does what it can to survive. Sometimes that means accepting the reality presented to us. Even if it's false, you didn't fail, you survived, and that's what matters." Luna began to believe that. She began to understand that she didn't need to carry the weight of choices that were never hers. She began to forgive herself. In February, John Paul finally gained definitive custody of Luna. It was a day of celebration. Marcus, Mrs. Helen, Marina, Julia, and everyone who had helped on this journey gathered to celebrate. Luna moved into the apartment with her father, and for the first time in 8 years, she slept knowing she was truly home. The apartment was small but cozy. John Paul let Luna choose how she wanted her room, to be decorated. She, who had never had a choice about anything, was paralyzed by so many options. "You mean I can choose the color of the walls?" she asked incredulously. And the curtains? And the furniture? You can choose everything, my daughter. This is your space, your little corner of the world. Luna chose light blue walls, remembering the sky that always calmed her when she felt lost. She chose a canopy bed because she had always dreamed of having one. She chose a large desk because she had discovered she liked to write and draw, and John Paul made sure everything was exactly as she wanted. Adapting to the new life had its challenges. Luna still woke up early out of habit, ready to start doing household chores. John Paul had to remind her that she no longer needed to do that she was a daughter and not a maid, that her only obligation was to be a child, study and be happy. Luna, still startled at loud noises, still had nightmares where she was back in that dark, silent house. But gradually, with love and patience, the wounds began to heal. John Paul also had to adapt. 8 years away from active parenthood left him insecure. He didn't know how to deal with a 12-year-old girl transitioning into adolescence. He didn't know if he was being too protective or not protective enough. He made mistakes, like any father. But he was present, and that made all the difference. Julia continued to be a great friend to Luna even after she left the shelter. The two talked every day, and Luna visited the shelter regularly, bringing books and toys for the other children. She discovered that helping others made her feel useful in a healthy way, different from how she felt in Beatrice's house. Marcus became a kind of honorary uncle. He took Luna and John Paul out for Sunday lunches, taught Luna to play chess, told terrible jokes that made everyone laugh. He was the kind of constant and reliable presence Luna had never had before. The original Venture family home, the one where Luna had lived her first years and then suffered for so long, was undergoing renovation. John Paul decided they would not return there. There was too much pain within those walls. Instead, he put the property up for sale and used the money to buy a larger apartment in a new building in the Greendale neighborhood. A true fresh start. It was around this time that Luna met Isabella, the new neighbor. Isabella was 13, extroverted and talkative, the opposite of Luna. But for some reason, the two connected. Isabella didn't ask intrusive questions about Luna's past. She just accepted her as she was, with her sudden silences, with her difficulty trusting, with her fears. And gradually, Luna learned to open up again, to make true friendships. At the new school, Luna also began to flourish, the teachers knowing her story through. Marina were especially attentive. They discovered she had a talent for writing and encouraged her to participate in a literary project. Luna began writing short stories, tales of brave girls facing dragons and witches, clear metaphors for her own journey. Her English teacher, Mrs. Marianne, saw immense potential in her and became a mentor. March arrived with the trial of Beatrice and Roderick. It was a difficult week. Luna did not go to court at the request of John Paul and the psychologist, but followed everything through Dr. Frederick, who kept her informed in an age-appropriate manner. The evidence was presented, witnesses spoke, everything was documented. In the end, the jury had no doubts. Beatrice and Roderick were found guilty of multiple crimes, document forgery, embezzlement, fraud, among others. They were sentenced to pay compensation to the victims and serve alternative sentences, with community service and severe restrictions. There was no imprisonment, but their lives as they knew them were over. Their assets were confiscated to pay for reparations, their reputations destroyed, their careers ruined. Luna felt no joy at the conviction. She felt only a strange emptiness. Beatrice, however bad she was still part of her history, but it was a chapter that needed to be closed so that new ones could be written. John Paul held her hand when Dr. Frederick delivered the news. "It's over, Luna. It's truly over. Now we can move forward." And that's what they did. They moved forward, day after day, building a new life. John Paul started drawing again, something he hadn't done in years, and Luna discovered that she also loved it. They spent hours together, father and daughter, drawing blueprints, houses, gardens. John Paul taught techniques. Luna brought creativity. It was a connection that went beyond words. On weekends, they did simple but meaningful things. They went to Barigi Park to feed the ducks, visited museums, watched movies on the couch eating popcorn. John Paul taught Luna to ride a bicycle, something she had never had a chance to learn. She fell many times, scraped her knees, but her father was always there to help her get up. And when she finally managed to cycle on her own, the feeling of freedom was overwhelming. Luna also began to visit her paternal grandmother's grave, who had passed away before she was born. John Paul told stories about his mother, about how she would have loved to meet Luna, about how she always said that family was the most precious asset. And Luna understood that family was not just blood, it was choice, it was presence, it was love demonstrated in actions. Mrs. Helen continued to be a constant presence in their lives. She and John Paul developed a deep friendship based on mutual respect and shared memories. She became the grandmother Luna had never had, teaching her to bake cakes, to crochet, to have patience with the small things in life. In April, John Paul received a big job offer, an urban revitalization project in a historic neighborhood of Edinburgh. It was an opportunity to show his talent again, to prove that the lost years had not broken him. But it also meant long hours of work. He talked to Luna before accepting. "What do you think, daughter? It means I'll have to work a lot, but it also means we can have a more comfortable life, that I can give you the things you deserve." Luna thought for a moment. "Dad, I don't need things. I just need you. But if this job makes you happy, if what you want to do, then I support it. We'll manage, we always do." John Paul hugged her, moved. "How did you get so wise?" "I had to grow up fast," she said simply. He accepted the project, but made sure to maintain a balance. He worked hard, but was always home for dinner. He never missed a school presentation, a psychologist appointment, an important moment. He had learned that professional success without his daughter by his side was worth nothing. In May, on Mother's Day, Luna faced a difficult moment. She saw all her classmates at school talking about gifts and tributes to their mothers. She didn't have a mother. She never had. Beatrice had been only a cruel guardian, and her biological mother was a stranger who had abandoned her at birth. She returned home, sad, quiet. John Paul noticed. He sat beside her on the sofa. "Do you want to talk about it?" Luna sighed. "It's Mother's Day. Everyone has a mother but me. You have people who love you, Luna. You have Mrs. Helen. You have Isabella as a friend. You have Dr. Carla. You have Marina. You have an entire network of incredible women who care about you. Family is built in many ways. But it's not the same." "No, it's not," he admitted, "and you have every right to feel that absence. But don't let that absence define who you are. Your biological mother didn't know you. She missed the chance to know the wonderful person you are, and that's her loss, not yours." Luna rested her head on her father's shoulder. "Sometimes I get angry at her for leaving me, for not even trying." "It's normal to be angry, but don't let that anger consume you. You're stronger than that." The next day, Mrs. Helen appeared with a bouquet of flowers for Luna. "Happy Mother's Day, dear." Luna was confused. "But I'm not a mother." "No, but you are a daughter, and you deserve to be celebrated. You deserve to know you are loved and important." It was a simple gesture, but it meant everything to Luna. She realized she didn't need a traditional mother to feel maternal love. That love came from multiple sources, from people who chose to be in her life. In June, Luna turned 13. John Paul organized a surprise party in the apartment with simple but heartfelt decorations. He invited Marcus, Mrs. Helen, Marina, Julia, Isabella, some classmates from the new school, and even Dr. Carla. Luna came home from school and was greeted by everyone shouting, "Surprise!" She was so moved she started to cry. It was the best party she had ever had, not because it was luxurious or elaborate, but because everyone there was genuinely present because they cared about her. They sang Happy Birthday, ate cake, played silly games, and laughed until their stomachs hurt. Luna blew out the candles and made a silent wish that this happiness would last forever. That night, when everyone had left and she was lying in her bed, John Paul entered the room. "Happy birthday, my little star. I hope it was a special day." "It was the best day of my life," Luna said sincerely. "Thank you for everything, Dad, for coming back, for never giving up on me. I should thank you, Luna, for waiting, for believing, even when it seemed impossible. You gave me strength to continue when I wanted to give up. Knowing you were somewhere, growing, living, kept me alive. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. Have you ever thought about getting married again? About having someone special in your life? John Paul smiled. I have thought about it, yes. But right now my priority is you. It's rebuilding what we lost. In the future, who knows? But for now, we're fine like this. Just the two of us, aren't we? Yes, we are, Luna agreed. But if one day you find someone nice, I'll accept it. You deserve to be happy too. He kissed her forehead. Sleep, my daughter. Tomorrow is a new day. Luna closed her eyes, feeling complete for the first time in her life. She had a father who loved her, true friends, a safe home. The scars of the past were still there and probably always would be, but they no longer defined her. She was more than her pain. She was Luna Venture, a survivor, a fighter, a girl who had learned that even in the deepest darkness, there is always a star shining. August arrived, bringing with it that characteristic Edinburgh chill that made people bundle up in coats and scarves. Luna was in the second semester of 7th grade and finally felt like she was part of something. She had friends, participated in the school's drama club, and wrote regularly for the student newspaper. It was as if she was living the adolescence she had never been allowed to have, but not everything was perfect. Some nights, Luna still woke up startled, dreaming she was back in that house, sweeping the floor endlessly while voices criticized her. Other times she had an irrational fear that John Paul would disappear again, that everything was just a cruel dream from which she would wake up alone. Dr. Carla helped her process these anxieties, but explained that deep trauma takes time to heal completely. John Paul also had his ghosts. There were days when he found himself looking at Luna with a deep sadness, regretting all the moments he had lost. The first day of school he didn't see, the birthdays he didn't celebrate, the tears he didn't wipe away. Marcus constantly reminded him that he couldn't change the past, only build a better future. It was on a Saturday morning while they were having coffee together that Luna brought up an unexpected subject. Dad, I was thinking, I think I want to meet my biological mother. John Paul almost choked on his coffee. What? Luna? She abandoned you. She never tried to make contact. Why would you want to meet her? Luna stirred her buttered bread thoughtfully. I don't know exactly. Maybe because I need answers. I need to understand why she did what she did. Dr. Carla says that sometimes confronting the past helps to move forward. John Paul took a deep breath, trying to control his conflicting emotions. I don't know where she is, Luna. Clarice completely disappeared. I don't even know if she's still alive. But we could try to look for her, couldn't we? Just so I know, so I have an answer, even if it's to understand that she really doesn't want to meet me. John Paul took his daughter's hand. If that's what you need, we'll look, but promise me you won't get hurt if the answer isn't what you expect. I promise. I've already been abandoned by her once. If it happens again, at least it will be with clarification. They spoke with Dr. Frederick, who put his team to track Clarice. It wasn't easy. She had changed her name, moved cities several times, but after weeks of investigation they found a clue. Clarice Moreira, now called Clara, Oliver, lived in Glasgow, worked as a librarian and apparently led a common and discreet life. Dr. Frederick made contact through an intermediary, explaining the situation. Clarice initially refused any contact, but after a few weeks she changed her mind. She sent a letter to Luna through the lawyer. The girl read it with trembling hands. Dear Luna, I don't know if I have the right to call you that. When I heard you were looking for me, I was shocked. I spent 13 years trying to forget the biggest mistake of my life. I abandoned you. There is no excuse, no justification that makes this less terrible. But you deserve to know the truth. When I found out I was pregnant, I panicked. I was only 19. In the midst of a severe psychological crisis, I had no emotional or financial structure. Your father tried to help me, but I didn't let him. I ran away. I ran from everything. I spent years in treatment, trying to rebuild myself. And during all that time, I thought of you. I wondered if you were well, if you were happy, if you hated me. You probably hate me. And you have. Every right to. If you want to meet me, I accept. If you want to confront me, I deserve it. If you simply want to know who I am and then never speak to me again, I understand. The choice is yours. It always was yours. I only took that from you the day I left. Clara. Luna read the letter several times. There was honesty there, but also pain. Her mother wasn't a monster. She was a broken person who made a terrible decision in a moment of desperation. This didn't justify the abandonment, but it humanized the situation. I want to meet her, Luna told John Paul. I don't know what will happen, but I need to do this. John Paul agreed, although his father's heart wanted to protect Luna from any possible disillusionment. They scheduled a meeting for September at a neutral cafe in Glasgow. John Paul Marcus and Dr. Carla accompanied Luna on the trip, but stayed at a discreet distance, allowing the meeting to happen privately. When Luna entered the cafe and saw Clarice for the first time, she froze. The woman had her eyes, the same shape, the same greenish color. Clarice was thin, had short brown hair and a nervous expression. She stood up when she saw Luna, her hands trembling. "Luna?" she asked, her voice cracking. Luna nodded, approaching slowly. They sat facing each other, the silence heavy between them. Clarice was the first to speak. "You're beautiful. You look like your father, but you have my eyes." "Everyone says that," Luna replied, not knowing exactly how to act. Clarice wiped a tear. "I know nothing I say will change what I did. I don't expect your forgiveness, I don't deserve it, but I want you to know that I didn't abandon you because you weren't wanted. I abandoned you because I was broken and scared. And that's not an excuse, but it's the truth. Why didn't you come back? After you got better, why did you never try to see me?" Clarice sighed. "Because I was ashamed. Because I thought you would be better off without me. Because your father was a wonderful man who loved you immensely, and I was just a coward. I didn't deserve to be your mother." "But I deserve to have a mother," Luna said, her voice firm. "Even if you weren't perfect. I deserved at least to know you existed, that you thought of me. You're right. You deserved all of that, and I denied it to you. I'm so sorry, Luna. From the bottom of my heart, I'm so sorry." Luna looked at that woman who was her mother biologically, but a stranger emotionally. She felt anger, sadness, but also a strange compassion. Clarice wasn't a villain. She was just a flawed person who had made wrong decisions. "I don't know if I can forgive you now," Luna said honestly. "Maybe one day, maybe never. But I wanted you to know that I survived. I went through a lot, things you can't imagine, but I survived. And I have an incredible father who never gave up on me, and friends, and a life. I don't need you to be complete. But it was important for me to know who you are, to close this chapter." Clarice nodded, crying openly now. "You are much stronger than I ever was, and I'm glad you have John Paul. He was always a good man." "Do you want to know about my life?" Luna asked, surprising herself. "About who I am." Clarice smiled through tears. "I would love to." They spent the next hour talking. Luna talked about school, about her friends, about her passion for writing and drawing. Clarice talked about her work at the library, about how she found peace in books, about how every day she thought about the daughter she had left behind. It wasn't a magical reconciliation meeting. It was just two people trying to understand each other. When they said goodbye, Clarice asked if she could hug Luna. The girl hesitated, but agreed. It was a brief and strange hug, but significant. It wasn't the hug of mother and daughter. It was the hug of two people who shared a biological connection, but were essentially strangers. And that was okay. "Can we keep in touch?" Clarice asked hesitantly. "Letters, perhaps? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I'd like to know how you're doing from time to time." Luna thought for a moment. "You can send letters. I'll read them, and if I want to, I'll answer." Clarice accepted these terms, grateful for any crumb of connection. Luna left the cafe and found John Paul waiting anxiously. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. "Thank you for letting me do this, for trusting me." "How was it?" he asked, concerned. "It was strange, but necessary. I think now I can truly move forward. She's not a mystery anymore. She's just a person who made mistakes, and I don't need to carry that anymore." John Paul hugged her tightly, proud of his daughter's emotional maturity. Dr. Carla was right. Confronting the past, however painful, was part of the healing process. Back in Edinburgh, Luna felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She no longer had unanswered questions. She knew who she was, where she came from, and where she was going, and that gave her a sense of completeness she had never had before. October brought unexpected news. Beatrice contacted Dr. Frederick asking to meet Luna. John Paul was immediately against it, but Luna, to everyone's surprise, said she wanted to go, not for Beatrice but for herself, to close that chapter too. The meeting took place in Dr. Frederick's office with all necessary legal and emotional precautions. Beatrice was visibly different, thin, grey-haired, without makeup. Serving her sentence with community service, she had lost everything she had, and she seemed to finally understand the gravity of what she had done. "Luna," Beatrice began, her voice hoarse, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know that I am truly sorry, very sorry. What I did to you was unforgivable. I was so blinded by greed, so consumed by wanting things that weren't mine, that I forgot you were a child who deserved love and care. Not a day goes by that I don't think about it, about the harm I caused." Luna looked at her with apparent emotionlessness. "Why did you do it? Why did you treat a child that way?" Beatrice wiped a tear. "Because I was bitter. Because I never managed to have my own children, and that destroyed me. Because when I saw your father with you, so happy, so complete, I felt envy, toxic envy. And when Roderick appeared with his plans, his promises of easy money, I dove in, and you became part of the scheme, a piece that needed to be controlled. But you weren't a piece. You were a person, a child, and I failed you." Luna took a deep breath. "Do you know that I spent years thinking I wasn't good enough? That I needed to work harder, be better, to deserve love? Do you know the damage that did to me? I know, and I will carry that for the rest of my life. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Luna. I'm just asking you to know that it wasn't your fault. Nothing that happened was your fault. The fault was always mine." Luna remained silent for a long moment. Then she said something that surprised even herself. "I don't forgive you, at least not now, maybe never, but I release you. I will no longer. Let what you did define who I am. You no longer have power over me. It's over." Beatrice nodded, crying. "Thank you. It's more than I deserve." Luna stood up and left the room without looking back. John Paul was waiting for her in the hallway and wrapped her in a hug. "I'm so proud of you." "I just need some fresh air," Luna said. "Shall we go home?" "Let's." November arrived with the warmth returning, and with it, one of the best pieces of news Luna could receive. Her story, written for the school newspaper about overcoming adversity and new beginnings, was selected for a statewide young writers competition. She won first place in the junior category. The award ceremony would be in Edinburgh, at the Royal Lyceum Theatre, and she could bring anyone she wanted. Luna invited John Paul, Marcus, Mrs. Helen, Marina, Julia, Isabella, and Dr. Carla. They all went. On the night of the awards, Luna went up on stage wearing a simple but beautiful dress that John Paul had bought especially for the occasion. She received the trophy and certificate, and when asked to say a few words, she looked at the audience, found her father's eyes, and began to speak. "When I was little, I thought stories were just words on pages, but I learned that stories are life. They are pain, overcoming, love, and new beginnings. My story was not easy. It had dark chapters, moments when I thought there would be no happy ending. But I learned that we write our own endings. We can choose how our story ends, no matter how it began. I dedicate this award to my father, who never gave up on me, and to all the people who helped me rewrite my narrative. Thank you." The audience gave a standing ovation. John Paul had tears streaming down his face, as did Marcus and all the others who knew and loved her. Luna came down from the stage and ran into her father's arms. "I did it, Dad. I managed to transform all the pain into something beautiful. You always surprise me, my little star, always. In December, on Christmas Eve, something unexpected happened. Luna and John Paul were decorating the Christmas tree in the apartment when the doorbell rang. John Paul went to answer it and returned with a strange expression on his face. "Luna, there's someone here who wants to talk to you." A woman entered the living room. She was younger than Clarice, had black hair and kind eyes. Luna looked at her, confused. "Who are you?" The woman smiled nervously. "My name is Felicity. I am your mother, Clarice's sister, your aunt. I didn't know you existed until recently. Clarice told me everything a few weeks ago, and I needed to come meet you." Luna's eyes widened. "I have an aunt?" "Yes, you do, and cousins. I have 2 children, 10 and 8 years old. Your family is bigger than you imagine, Luna, and if you want, we would love to be a part of your life. Not to replace anyone, but to add, to be another support network." John Paul looked at Luna, leaving the decision to her. The girl thought for a moment. She had always wished for a big family, full of people, and now suddenly she had one. An amazing father, a surrogate uncle in Marcus, a grandmother at heart in Mrs. Helen, and now a biological aunt and cousins. "I'd like to get to know you all," Luna said with a shy smile. "But slowly. I'm still processing." "Everything," Felicity immediately agreed. "No pressure, in your own time. I just wanted you to know that there are more people who care about you." After Felicity left, promising to return with her children soon, Luna sat on the sofa beside John Paul. "My life is getting so full, Dad. There are so many people now." "That's how it should always have been," he said, putting his arm around her shoulders. "You deserve to have a life full of love, of people who care. You deserve all good things. Sometimes I'm afraid it will all disappear. Of waking up and being alone again. It won't disappear, Luna. This is real and permanent. We are permanent." That year's Christmas was magical. John Paul and Luna spent the morning exchanging simple but meaningful gifts. He gave her a leather-bound journal with her name engraved so she could continue writing her stories. She gave him a drawing she had spent weeks making, an artistic representation of the two of them, father and daughter, walking hand in hand towards a bright horizon. In the afternoon, they hosted Marcus, Mrs. Helen, Isabella, and her family for lunch. The house was filled with laughter, conversation, and human warmth. It was exactly how Luna had always imagined families should be. Noisy, chaotic, but full of love. When the new year arrived, Luna and John Paul went to Barigi Park to watch the fireworks. As the sky lit up with brilliant colors, Luna made her silent wishes for the new year. She didn't ask for material things or big changes. She asked only that peace, that love, that sense of belonging remain. She asked for courage to continue growing, strength to face future challenges, and wisdom to cherish every moment. John Paul looked at her, seeing no longer the frightened child she had been, but a strong, resilient young woman full of light. "Luna, I want to tell you something." "What, Dad?" "Thank you for waiting for me, for not giving up, even when everything seemed impossible. You saved me as much as I saved you, perhaps even more." Luna hugged her father, feeling a completeness she had never imagined possible. "We saved each other, Dad. Together." The following months brought more growth and healing. Luna continued therapy not because she was broken, but because she understood that taking care of mental health was as important as taking care of the body. She continued writing, and some of her stories began to be published in youth magazines. She continued making friends, learning to trust, opening her heart. She met her cousins, Matthew and Sophia, and developed a loving relationship with them. Felicity became a regular presence in their lives, always respectful of Luna's boundaries, always present but never intrusive. John Paul met someone, an architect named Olivia, who worked at a partner firm. She was a kind, intelligent, and patient woman. When he told Luna, he was nervous, afraid of how she would react, but Luna surprised him once again. "If she makes you happy, Dad, then I approve. You deserve to have someone special too." The relationship evolved slowly. Olivia got to know Luna gradually, without trying to be a mother or anyone's replacement, just being herself, a gentle and respectful presence. And Luna, who had learned to identify genuine love, accepted Olivia into their lives. In March of the following year, Luna turned 14. The party was bigger than the previous years, with even more people. Julia came from the shelter with some of the other children. Isabella brought her group of friends from school. Felicity came with her cousins. Marcus, Mrs. Helen, Marina, Dr. Carla, Olivia, everyone was there. The house was so full of love that Luna felt her heart would burst with happiness. As she blew out the candles, she looked around at all those people and realized something fundamental. Family was not just blood. Family was choice. It was presence. It was love demonstrated in actions, and she had an immense family, built piece by piece, person by person, choice by choice. John Paul raised a toast. To Luna, the bravest girl I know, who taught us all the true meaning of resilience, who transformed pain into light, who showed us that it's never too late to start over. Everyone raised their glasses, and Luna felt tears of happiness stream down her face. They weren't tears of sadness for what she had lost, but tears of gratitude for what she had found. She looked at her father and smiled, a true, complete, free smile. That night, lying in her bed, Luna picked up the journal her father had given her for Christmas. She opened it to the first page and began to write. Dear Diary, today I turned 14 years, of a life that wasn't easy but was worth it. I learned that we can fall 1,000 times and still get up. I learned that family is built with love, not just with blood. I learned that forgiveness is more for the forgiver than for the forgiven. I learned that it's possible to transform the worst experiences into our greatest strengths. But most importantly, I learned that we are never truly alone. There is always someone willing to reach out, if only we have the courage to accept it. My father taught me this, Marcus taught me this, Mrs. Marcus, Helen, Marina, Dr. Carla, Julia, Isabella, they all taught me this. And now it's my turn to teach others. I will continue writing, sharing my story, showing that it is possible to survive and thrive. Because if I could, others can too. This is my promise, my mission, to transform pain into light, darkness into hope, and never ever give up. She closed the diary and looked out the window at the starry Edinburgh sky. She thought of all the versions of herself that had existed, the abandoned baby, the lonely child, the frightened girl, and finally the young woman she was now. Strong, complete, loved. John Paul appeared at the door. Still awake, little star? Just thinking. About what? About how lucky I am. I know I went through bad things, but look where I am now. Look what I have. I'm really lucky. John Paul sat on the edge of the bed. It's not luck, Luna. It's your merit. You chose to survive. You chose to grow. You chose to forgive. You chose to love, even having every reason to close your heart. That's not luck. That's strength of character. I learned from the best, she said, smiling. He kissed her forehead. Good night, my daughter. I love you. I love you too, Dad. See you tomorrow. John Paul left, closing the door softly. Luna snuggled under the covers, feeling safe and at peace. She knew she would have challenges ahead. Life was not a fairy tale where everything was magically resolved, but she also knew she had the tools to face whatever came. She had love, she had support, she had herself, and that was more than enough. It was everything. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope Luna and John Paul's story has touched your heart. If you were moved by this journey of overcoming, love, and new beginnings, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which part moved you the most. Every day we bring intense stories like this, which reveal the deepest side of the human soul, showing that it is possible to be reborn even after the greatest difficulties. Every story we share carries a message of hope, strength, and transformation. We await you in the next episode, where another emotional narrative will touch your life. Until then, always remember that, just like Luna, you also have the power to rewrite your own story.